This is a alpha demo of the Trident project. This is the landing page where all users who use this web application will be first directed. On here, there will be product information regarding the features that the solution offers. To get started, you need to submit an email address, provide a username, password, and once you have registered, you'll be directed to your account. This is where you can manage your asset register. There are over 10,000 products and over 1,500 vendors to choose from. Today we're going to look at Microsoft and select a few. I will even select some from Cisco. This repository lists all applications, operating systems, and hardware that can be found on the National Vulnerability Database. Assets can be removed as well. As you can see, we've got a list of our assets there. If I select one, I can remove it, and it's now gone from this list. So, returning to the main landing page, which is the dashboard, you can see a clear picture of your CVSS 3.1 base severity distribution within the last X amount of weeks. Right now, the time span is set to all, so it will show the last year. The filters are the last 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days, month, and last 3 months. Let's see what's happened in the last 14. So, as we can see, there's only been one vulnerability, and that's rated at high, and can be shown onto both graphs. Scrolling down, you can see a clear picture of the assets that you have in your register, as well as the versions that have been captured and assigned to those as well. And then lastly, there is a table which shows all of the vulnerabilities across your assets and the products affected. If we drill down into a particular CVE, we can see a synopsis and entry details, which cover the basics such as the type, whether it's a network-based vulnerability, the family it belongs to, those products that have been affected, the publish dates. It also includes risk information, seen on the right, where you can see the actual source of the CVE, the risk factor, the scores, the vector string, etc. One of the nice features about this particular platform is that you can quite easily go and see external resources, and those are in the form of advisories, patch links, and even links back to the source of this information, which is the National Vulnerability Database and MITRE entries. Additionally, if NVD have published a vulnerability with an associated common weakness enumeration, it will be listed here, and users can quite easily see the technical mitigation and detection techniques for remediating and implementing a possible solution. One of the improvements that I sought to make against the CVSS scoring system was to improve upon the contextual scoring around it. The base score measures severity of a vulnerability, not risk, and so appraising a vulnerability contextually helps push forward you from a position of reactivity to proactivity. So this vulnerability priority rating is calculated from one equation. It's the base score multiplied by exploit code maturity, multiplied by indicators of compromise, multiplied by threat level, multiplied by utility. I will now go through each of those. So You may or may not be already familiar with exploit code maturity, but this essentially answers how mature is this exploit in terms of its functionality. For example, at the highest end, there is a high calculation of exploit code maturity, meaning it is widely available, reliable, easy to use, and is functional. However, at the lower end, the exploit is only theoretical and no known exploit code exists. For example, in this case, I will select high. Indicators of compromise serve as forensic evidence of potential intrusions on a host system or network. As the vulnerability lifecycle continues, a vulnerability is increasingly likely to be exploited. Vendors, businesses, or organizations may publicly disclose breaches where a given vulnerability has been exploited. This has been rated at one of three levels. Either there's been no record, as in no confirmed reports of a compromise, or it has been confirmed and there is evidence of it being used in the wild. I'm going to choose confirmed. Threat level. This metric measures the interest in a given vulnerability. Social media chatter, general news outlets, darknet forums, and exploit databases can indicate a desire to exploit a given vulnerability. Whilst confirming a vulnerability and a threat actually exists, this metric also gauges how likely a vulnerability is to be exploited in an attack based on sentiment. This is measured at three levels: not defined, low, and high. High indicates a high interest amongst malicious actors and has been designated as a target. Low, this intelligence indicates that a low interest is amongst malicious actors, and therefore this vulnerability might not be a target, or it might be. Utility. This measures the usefulness of a vulnerability in an attack. For example, suppose the vulnerability is found in a web application. That vulnerability, when exploited, might reveal sensitive information or could even be used to weaken the system to exploit it further, for example, vulnerability chaining. Conversely, given the wider context of the vulnerability in a system, it might not be that useful at all. This is rated at one of four levels as well. Unuseful. Threat actors can leverage this vulnerability to access information, systems, tools, but cannot chain on the other vulnerabilities to increase the scope. Useful. Threat actors can easily leverage this vulnerability to access sensitive information, system, tools, or can easily chain other vulnerabilities to increase scope. Highly useful. Threat actors can easily leverage this vulnerability to access highly sensitive information, systems, tools, or can very easily chain other vulnerabilities to vastly increase the scope. I'm going to select useful. And again, you can add a comment, and this improves the qualitative context around a vulnerability, something that is missing when reviewing the severity and risk associated to a particular asset. I'm just going to put in something super basic. Once it's submitted, what happens is every time there's a submission, that score is averaged out based on that total. So essentially you get an average score across what the community thinks. Another feature that I've added is that analysts who are professionals can come in and actually rate these themselves using the exact same metrics. And this provides a better standardized quantitative scoring metric to measure risk and give more context as opposed to just the base score. So, going into my report, this includes all of your vulnerabilities that can be found in your estate, and it tells you from when that information has been collected. So, again, if I choose the last 14 days, it should show that high that we were looking at earlier. And as you can see, this is a Windows print spooler elevation of privilege and vulnerability. As I mentioned before, this section allows you to see the actual synopsis, description, detection methods, and mitigation and controls based on that common weakness. So, what else does Trident have to offer? There is a Trident vulnerability database. This is a reflection of all of the entries in NVD with a few added benefits, such as the Analyst Vulnerability Priority Rating. You can search across this Cisco and it will bring up all of the products within the Cisco family, and you can see and cycle through those. And again, clicking on one will take you through to the detailed information for that particular CVE. So, running into cyber awareness, this platform also offers some free open source training rated at basic, intermediate and advanced. Basic, as you can see, this is just a demonstration. I haven't populated everything yet, but it comes in the form of posts. So you can see there's been an embedded video here and you can comment on these posts. And this has a link out to the National Cybersecurity Centre. So, what else? The community feed. This aims to be a place of converse and dialogue. It's aimed to create a centralized location for all of the information that you might find on Trident. It's important that this has been included because it enables people to quickly search for trending news articles, whether that's for example this one, Accenture have been hit by a Lockbit ransomware, and you can see no one's been commenting on it because I've not made any comments, but it allows you to quickly access that information in the news. To create a post, you put in your title and then you tag it. I've got news, general, breaches and ransoms, career questions and discussion, business security questions and discussion, vulnerability disclosure, threat actor TTPs and alerts, and other. You can upload photos, add alternative text for accessibility, external links, and add a description. And again, those are the core features on this particular platform.